Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Guess who it is? That's right. It's me, Robert Meyer Burnett, and I somehow have been able to take over the control center at the John Campea Show. I've actually never sat here before, and I have to say, with the technology I'm surrounded by, it's very impressive. This is the second episode of the John Campea Show Mailbag, and I have been tasked with the job of flying solo on this one. So I'm just going to jump in, and I hope you'll go easy on me. Our first question comes from Milo Murphy, sends in a tip and says, I think the Book of Boba has shown that the Mando crew is amazing, with episodes about Mando, but not within the episodes about other characters. They should have had a different crew for the Book of Boba. And if Bryce directs a movie, I think it should be a Mando movie. Yeah, you know, I have to say, dude, I kind of wish that the Book of Boba Fett was a little bit more focused on Boba Fett himself and why is he desirous of taking care of business in Mos Espa? Like, what's his angle? And now we've only got one more episode, but I think your point's well taken. They should have had a different crew for Boba, maybe, but you never know. I mean, the same filmmakers, it's really about the writing and the storytelling. I think the filmmakers are great. You know, TV shows, great TV shows, have the same people working on them. So it's not out of the ordinary, but I can see your point. Milo goes on to say, one of three. I don't see any reason why Sony can't continue to make Tom Holland movies in the MCU and also have their own Andrew Garfield movies in the Venom universe. Hey, bro, I'm a big proponent of that. Every Spider-Man fan saw No Way Home. They understand that there are multiple different versions of Spider-Man in different universes. Why not have two of them star in separate movie franchises at the same time? The Tom Holland movies are going to continue to be successful just because they are in the MCU and because of how amazing they are. But tons of people love Andrew Garfield, so The Amazing Spider-Man 3 would also be really successful, and it would just bring even more success to Sony's other movies like Venom, Morbius, Craven, etc. Well, Milo, first of all, thanks for supporting the channel. I agree with you 100%. I see no downside to make Venom 3 also star Andrew Garfield Spider-Man I guess Spider-Man would be the antagonist in Venom's movie. The Spider-Man would be the bad guy. Who wouldn't go see that? I mean, I think that, especially on the heels of No Way Home, that would be amazing. It would be totally amazing. I am with you 100%. I think that's a great idea. As you know, watching the show, I'm a total proponent of that idea. And why not? Because it'd be dope. It would be really, really cool. I think they should do it. We shall see. Old Danny Boy sends in a tip and says, I like that the Total Film logo on the Batman cover is part of the smoke ? Yeah, you know, we talked about those covers on here on the John Campea Show, and those covers are great. That art direction is amazing, and I love those covers. I think they're really, really cool. My man Stubble McShave, all the way from Sweden, says, whenever I hear Ron Perlman's name, I think of his role as the hunchbacked Salvatore in The Name of the Rose, starring Sean Connery. You know what, Stubble? I forgot he was in that. Christian Slater and Sean Connery. In The Name of the Rose is a great movie. Was it Umberto Eco? Did he write the book? Great film. If you haven't seen Name of the Rose, man, I haven't seen that movie in ages. I do not own that movie, but you've made me want to go back in and revisit it, so I'm all about that. Tron. Oh, Tron. You know, I made a documentary about the making of Tron that's on that movie's Blu-ray, although we made it in 2002, so it's only in standard def, but you should watch it anyway. Tron says, while I would like Bryce Dallas Howard to direct a Star Wars film, Lucasfilm is so chaotic and directionless when it comes to movies, I would rather we see an already announced project before we announce another film from someone. I mean, where's Rogue Squadron? That's true. You know, I really don't. It's a very weird thing. I honestly don't understand. I mean, the road to hell, they say, is paved with the best intentions. I think they want to make these movies. It's their intention to make these movies. And they want to make them good. But I think for various reasons, I mean, I love Patty Jenkins. I loved Monster. I loved Wonder Woman. But after watching Wonder Woman 84, even though she comes from a family of fighter pilots or her father was a fighter pilot or something, there was that great promo that they made announcing Rogue Squadron. I think, you're only as good as your last movie. That's an old adage in Hollywood. And I think that maybe they looked at Patty Jenkins and Wonder Woman 84 and decided, maybe we shouldn't. But I feel you. I mean, I think that I would like to see a lot of the movies they announce. And it's just a weird way to do business. BDH should direct. Bryce Dallas Howard should direct. Sends in a tip. I want Bryce to direct a Star Wars show from top to bottom like Deborah Chow is doing Obi-Wan. And I know Filoni is probably going to do it because I know it's his baby. But I want her to direct the Ahsoka series. That would be incredible, don't you think? Thoughts? Well, first of all, Bryce Dallas Howard should direct. I agree with you. I think a lot of these shows, these TV, especially when they're limited series and they have single directors directing all the episodes. Look at Cary Fukunaga doing the first season of True Detective. That was incredible. And I think Deborah Chow doing the entirety of the Obi-Wan series is probably a smart move. So I'm with you 100%. I don't know, I don't know how they're going to decide or whether or not they're going to decide to do that. I think if the Obi-Wan series went well, they're going to try and make these shows more auteurist. I think that they need that to make the shows more cohesive. And I'm hoping Obi-Wan will know because we'll see Deborah Chow's direction. But I think you're absolutely right about that. I am with you 100%. Stubble McShave is back. If Bryce Dallas Howard would do Solo 2, I would like to see an adaptation of the Legends book Scoundrels. The book is an easy setup between 4 and 5, but could easily be moved before episode 4. Scoundrels is basically Ocean's 11 Star Wars style with Han, Lando, Chewie, and many more. Dude, Stubble, count me in. I think that's absolutely what they should do. That'd be, I know that book, and that's a great idea, and we should all do it. Damn it. Tim Barlow sends in a tip and says, "Want to buy some death sticks?" You don't need death sticks. I don't need death sticks. You can go about your business. You can go about your business. Or I should have done that first. I like that. I like that moment in Attack of the Clones. Anonymous sends in a tip. Over or under 10% Martin Lawrence appears as Doctor Strange as a Black Knight Dane variant. You may laugh, but remember, it's the multiverse. It's here, and that would be funny. That would be funny, but who was that? Was that Chef Pleasures? Chef Pleasures?
It's under, baby.
Wait, since you're here, dude, would you like to see Martin Lawrence appear as Doctor Strange as a Black Knight Dane variant? Would you laugh, but remember it's the multiverse? Would you think that's funny?
Oh, yeah, that would be funny.
Let me ask. Well, I think it'd be not funny.
It would be completely off, but...
Now, let me ask you something. It's the Chinese Year of the Tiger.
Uh-huh.
Does that mean the Bengals are going to win the Super Bowl?
Man, I believe in them, but the Rams got everything on defense. You know what I mean? It's going to be scary, but let's hope. We'll see.
We'll see.
See you later, Rob. All
right, Ray. That was a special guest appearance, cameo appearance of Chef Pleasures himself, bringing you the happy time. Drew Peacock sends in a tip and says, "I don't mean to treat you like a circus animal, but can you please take this money and give me a couple of Twilight Boy? P.S. Rob, stay sexy. Well, I'll try and do just that." Drew, thanks for that. I appreciate that. Twilight Boy, one for good measure. Preston the Kryptonian sends in a tip and says, "John," or Rob, as the case is mine, "after you mentioned Bryce Dallas Howard rising up on her father's level of directional popularity, it made me think of what Steppenwolf would say to her. You have the blood of the old Howards in you." I don't know, that's not a very good Steppenwolf voice. Anyway, I thought it was funny. Bring on the filthy. Preston the Kryptonian. I like that. I mean, why not have, you've got Ivan Reitman and Jason Reitman. Why not have Ron Howard and Bryce Dallas Howard? Plus, Bryce Dallas Howard is hella cute and a redhead. And I think redheads can do just about anything they want to. But you know what? Proof's in the pudding. her work is great. We've seen now 3 episodes. She's grown as a director. I think she really understands, and also, she grew up shadowing her father, probably being on his sets, heard him talk. They probably had long conversations about the craft of directing. So, I mean, family businesses are a time-honored tradition in all of human history. So I say Bryce Dallas Howard has earned her stripes through her work, and the proof is in the pudding. Preston the Cryptonian goes on to say, "Woo, very nice tip, thank you so much." Also, on the subject of Steppenwolf and the Justice League, I thought that moment when he said, "You have the blood of the old gods in you," to Wonder Woman, it was a no shit Sherlock moment for me. Thoughts? I think you're right. It's a little it's on the nose. Yes, she does. She's an Amazonian. Isn't Zeus her dad? She doesn't indeed have the blood of the old gods. I can't hear Steppenwolf's voice. Even if I could, I'm no voice actor, but I would try it. I agree. It is a no shit Sherlock moment. It really is. I agree with you utterly. What do we got here? Jay Bling sends in a tip and says, "I want to clarify what I mean by the description of Red 1. I know the movie won't be about that description. What I meant by premise is that they're telling us the movie is mainly being made to serve marketing buzzwords and not necessarily tell a story." Well, Jay Bling, we've talked a lot about this new project that's going to star. Is it Ryan Reynolds and The Rock? Is that what it is, or somebody else? I don't remember right off the top of my head who it is. I'm drawing a blank. But or is it Colin Farrell? I don't remember. But we've been talking about it on the show, so I should. But I think a lot of what's being passed off as entertainment now is being built around, I don't know, like you said, buzzwords, marketing buzzwords. I think a lot of things get created because of that. And look, I believe that movies and television, or novels, or comics, or video games, or even narrative podcasts, it should always be about characters and story. If you're trying to make something just so you're going to market it to your audience, you obviously want to market everything, but if you're just making something because you think there's a market for this, so we have to jump on the bandwagon, you're never going to succeed. You have to tell great stories with great characters. I mean, that's what you have to do. So you're probably not wrong about that. Jay Bling goes on to say, "When you say you don't believe Jason Statham won't be back for Fast 10, is that even considering his mid-credits tease in Fast 9? I think he's going to be back. I do. You got to bring it back, because you know what? We have to have Han and Jason. Well, we have to have Sun Kang and Jason Statham confront one another. Like, come on, in the same room, maybe get in a fight, do something. Come on. We need that to happen, because I don't think justice for Han was really served. As a matter of fact, according to Fast 9, was there even a need for justice for Han? I think that whole thing was given short shrift. I want to see Sun Kang and Jason Statham have a showdown. Something. Give me something. You know what I'm saying? Brandon sends in a tip and says, "I don't know if you've gotten a chance to watch the Afterparty on Apple TV, but you need to. It stars Sam Richardson, Tiffany Haddish, Ben Schwartz, Alana Glazer, and Dave Franco. Started choking from laughing so much at it. It's such a great show." Well, of course, we've been talking about it a lot here on the John Campea Show. I'm going to, I'll probably jump into that tonight. I think I might jump in tonight, see what it's all about, because people are loving that show. And what's not to love, I guess? What a great cast. Rogue 3 sends in a tip and says, "I want to congratulate the team on a really smart, very interesting discussion on Friday's show about the moral complexity of making projects like Pam and Tommy without the subject's consent. That was a really stimulating, insightful discussion. Well done." Well, Rogue 3, thanks a lot. I mean, I have to tell you, I love hearing that from our viewers, and even on my own show when people talk about how compelling they thought a discussion was, or even when I get a great letter from a viewer or something, I really enjoy having these kinds of discussions, because I think they matter. And I think, the idea that an individual's right to privacy is something that could be guaranteed, I think something like that's important. And what is the difference between when you decide to go into service or become a public figure, become a movie star or a sports star or a music phenomenon, whatever? do you then forfeit your right for individual liberty? I think it's something that it's a discussion we have to continue to have. And we're as social media and technology moves ever forward, we haven't done a very good job of examining the ethics of these things. So I'm with you 100%. I'm glad you enjoyed the conversation. I think it doesn't surprise me with our crew that we get into these kinds of conversations, but it's always nice when it happens because I feel like, we're really doing something meaningful, and the fact that you guys like it, well, that's pretty great. So thanks for that, Rogue 3. Appreciate it. Rogue 3 goes on to say, thoughts on the first episodes on Vox Machina. I thought it was kind of cringy, relying on too many F-bombs, boobs, butts, and splatters as crutches. Calm down. Tell your story. Develop your characters. Stop trying so hard to be outrageous. My 2 cents. Well, I suppose this is when I can mention that, yes, I was the animatic editor of Dota Dragon's Blood Seasons 1 and 2. And I would say, look, I think that with the crew that made Vox Machina, I understand where they're coming from. But I tend to agree. I think it's possible to have too many look, I love F-bombs and boobs and butts and splatters. I mean, I love gore. But, sometimes it's just too over the top. You still have to concentrate. At the end of the day, it's about characters and story. I do like the fact that they were able to crowdfund this show based on the audience response and their fan base, and they actually got it made. I've been involved in one crowdfunding project that didn't really happen the way it was supposed to. So I really respect them for what they're doing. And I understand they're giving their audience what they want. But I do think at the end of the day, it's all about characters and story. I've only seen the first episode. I'm happy it got made, but I don't disagree with you. I think maybe it was a little too much. Did they have to go that far? Stop trying so hard to be outrageous, I think, is a very good philosophy. Because that way, when you are being outrageous, we take it to heart. I think that something like Peacemaker has done a good job of sort of finding a balance between the two things. Marvel Misfit sends in a tip. Hey, crew. After watching Spider-Man No Way Home, I remembered back to WandaVision, where Agatha told Wanda that she was more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme. Do you think she was actually referring to Wong rather than Doctor Strange? You know what? I tend to think that because Agatha Harkness has been around for a long time, she was probably referring to the Sorcerer Supreme in general. I don't think she was necessarily, although it's a good point that Doctor Strange was in fact snapped, but so was Wanda. For all we know, Agatha was too, or maybe she said she wasn't. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But I don't think it was specific to Wong. I think it was specific to the job of Sorcerer Supreme, and I think that Agatha recognized that Wanda was more powerful than most or all of the Sorcerer Supremes that there has ever been. Part 1 of 3. Hey, John, while I agree with you that faith-based movies are mostly terrible, one of the main reasons why is because it's a controversial subject. Not a lot of talented filmmakers want to be a part of it. That's why it amazes me. This is, by the way, this is from Anonymous. It amazes me that films like Of Gods and Men get made. Okay, clearly I just recommended another faith-based movie, but at least your audience may look into it. It's a needle in a haystack. Thank you for your show. It's been great listening to you. I've learned to appreciate more film because of you. Well, Anonymous, I want to thank you for that. There's nothing we like to hear more than people get something out of the show. I mean, I love it when I do my own show on do observations on my the network. People are always writing me and telling me they've discovered movies or books or graphic novels or even music. And on this show, I love hearing the same thing. If we have a discussion that people enjoy, it really means a lot. So thanks for that. But also when it comes, here's what I would say about faith-based movies. I've even worked on one. I worked as the assistant editor on a movie called like Dandelion Dust that John Gunn, no relation, directed. And I really like working on the film. It was based on a faith-based novel of the same name. And I think that here's I have no problem. Like, I want to one day make the ultimate Job movie. I love biblical epics, and I would love to do, I love the story of Job. I would love to make And if I made a movie about Job, I suppose it would be faith-based. But I think one of the problems is that I think the idea of telling a story from a faith-based perspective a lot of the time skews the story itself. Any story, depending on where you're coming from with it, always has to give you great characters and a great story to tell. I think faith-based movies sometimes put their belief systems or whatever faith, and let's face it, most faith-based movies that we're talking about are Christianity-based films, which I don't necessarily have a problem with, but what I don't like is when the religious message supersedes the message of the characters and the story. I have no idea, or I do have an idea, but I have no objections to anyone making a film that delves into faith, their faith. You know, faith has been a big part of humanity for thousands of years. And my sister herself, she is born again. She walks with the Lord. And she and I have very spirited debates about religion and faith. And I think these kinds of discussions are meaningful, and I think they are helpful. And in the case of films, you can absolutely make compelling faith-based movies. It really depends about the talent, just like with anything else, of the people in front of and behind the camera. So I don't necessarily object to faith-based movies at all. I have no problem with them. I just like to see great filmmakers and great stories and great characters, as with anything else. Sontito 7 says, "Hey John, did you finish Superman and Lois season 1? I did, and I quite enjoyed it actually. I started season 2, and the show keeps being good, and making Superman right. I agree with you. I think the portrayal of Superman and Lois and their sons, I think it's actually been quite good. You know, I worked on Superman Returns. I made a 3-hour documentary on the making of Superman Returns. It's on that Blu-ray. And I think a lot of what they've done with Superman and Lois is what they were really attempting to do with Superman Returns. But they're doing it. I'm in Superman Returns. Brief little moment. But I think what they've done for Superman and Lois has been terrific. It's delving into the same kinds of things, but doing it very effectively. And really, it's been terrific. I think it's a great show. I've not started season 2, however, but if you say it's continuing to be great, I will take your word for it. And that is a very, very cool thing. So good on all of us. And good on them for making a great show. The Adrenaline Knight sends in a tip and says, "Do you think Uncle Ben exists in the MCU?" I think we've seen a briefcase, or that we've seen the piece of luggage that says Ben on it. So I think it's a good bet there probably is one. We don't know what that backstory is, but I could see Uncle Ben maybe appearing in the MCU now that Aunt May is gone. We'll find out. You could easily have some interesting backstory because of that, which could be pretty interesting. Nosferatu. Now, if memory serves, Nosferatu, the film, is 100 years old this year. It was made in 1922, I think, right? Nosferatu says, "I really hope that Marvel Studios starts creating standalone movies outside of the MCU. I love cinematic universes, but I also love standalone superhero films as well. DC has proven that it can work with the success of Joker." While I don't think that's necessarily a bad idea, I think the MCU's business model is designed around taking advantage of the serialized nature of the MCU. So I don't know if we're actually going to see that. I'd be there for it, but then you know what would happen if they made a standalone movie. People would be like, "Well, how does this fit into the larger MCU?" But I don't think it's a bad idea if they had the right kind of movie. Like I could see, but I've always wanted them to do Alex Ross's Marvels in the MCU. You could do it outside the MCU, I guess, but it'd be more fun to do it within the MCU. I think the MCU, though, is just by design, it is what it is. But I can understand if they could come up with their Joker, but it would be hard for, I think, audiences to accept movies that deal with Marvel characters that were outside of the MCU. Dangerous D says, "Hi, John. I know this news is known now, but I want to give a shout out and honor George Pérez, the great writer, artist of the comic industry who is battling cancer. His drawing is so well known to most fans, and non-fans had probably seen it thousands of times and not known it was his drawings. He created characters like Cyborg, Deathstroke, Starfire, Raven, the Maestro, Taskmaster, and so many I can't even count. If there's a Mount Rushmore of comics, his name would be there, along with Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, and Jim Lee." Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. I pray that he fights this cancer and wins. I think he's still got a lot of stories and characters to create, drawings that would still wow the 10-year-old inside me. My thoughts are for Mr. Pérez and for his wife Carol, from one of his millions of fans. Keep fighting. Well, for those of you who don't know, George Pérez is one of the greatest superhero comic artists of all time. He's done My Beloved Justice League back in the day. I fell in love with the new Teen Titans because he was drawing it. Marv Wolfman was writing from the new Teen Titans 1. I mean, I loved his art. He, of course, did Crisis on Infinite Earths back in the mid-'80s for DC. He came back and worked with Kurt Busiek on Avengers. His figure drawing is incredible. His anatomy is so spot on. And, I mean, if you look at some of the artwork on Crisis on Infinite Earths, and, also he created characters like Brother Blood, which we're going to see in the upcoming season of Titans. Brother Blood is one of my favorite DC villains. I mean, what a great outfit that is. I love Brother Blood and Mother Mayhem. But you're right. I mean, George was diagnosed with cancer, and according to his own Facebook post, they think it's going to be terminal and that he has about another year left. But I agree, if he can fight, he should. But I hope that he has the best life that he can while he's still with us. But I encourage everyone to find some of his great work because it is amazing. Thanks for supporting the channel that way, and I definitely agree with you. So thanks for saying that in. Ordinary Human Bartender says, "In some scenes in Gladiator, I thought the music sounded similar to Pirates of the Caribbean. The composers are different, but it seems blatant to me that it was taken from this movie. Was Klaus's score just different enough for this to be acceptable? Well, you'll notice, especially if you look into composers like James Horner, a lot of composers' music is similar to other composers' music. I like to think of it as borrowing and paying homage. There is a great film score for an older movie called King's Row by Eric Korngold. It's a great score, even if you've never seen the movie. The music for King's Row is incredible, but if you listen to it, you'll hear a lot of Star Wars in it. John Williams was clearly influenced by Eric Korngold, so it happens all the time, and I don't think it's so much as stealing as paying homage. And also, what's really interesting, when you're making a movie, you do what's called temp tracking the movie. So when you're editing it together from a post-production standpoint, a lot of the time you temp track the movie, meaning you'll put in a temporary soundtrack of music that exists in other movies. So a lot of the time, directors or filmmakers will fall in love with those temp tracks, and they'll tell their composers that they want something that sounds kind of like this. Can you do something like this there? And it happens more often than you might realize. So you're probably exactly right. Is it acceptable? I don't know, but it happens a lot. But it happens because of the process. It's a lot of the time, no one's trying to necessarily steal from somebody else, but a director will have fallen in love with a piece of score and will tell a composer that they want something like that. Jordan Arbery says, "Hey, John, other than Doctor Strange 2, what is your most anticipated MCU film? For me, it has to be Mahershala Ali's Blade. I think it's going to be the most unique movie to date in the MCU." Well, Jordan, I have to tell you, as a huge horror fan and a huge fan of the character Blade, I'm really looking forward to seeing how the MCU embraces the supernatural side of the universe. And I think Blade is going to point the way. I think Moon Knight is going to be pointing the way. Because remember, Moon Knight as a character was introduced in the pages of Werewolf by Night. in the 70s, mid 70s. So Moon Knight is a character that has a supernatural bent. We have the Black Knight showing up, also wielding a cursed blade that has a huge history in the Marvel universe. And Blade, so I'm with you. I like all of the Marvel movies. Sure, I want to see Doctor Strange and Thor: Love and Thunder and Marvels and whatever else they dish up. But I'm really curious to see Blade because I love horror and I can't wait to see how they incorporate that into the MCU. Luna Mini Podcast sends in a tip and says, so I don't know if you saw the new Ice Age movie on Disney Plus, but I'm not impressed. It felt off, rushed, and poorly executed. It sucks that they didn't have the same cast or scrat. This felt like a lower budget company, and why make the main cast side characters? Well, Luna, it's all about money. And a lot of the time, the Ice Age movies were big budget films. And as you know from franchises like The Land Before Time, they made how many sequels to that? If they're not going to be major theatrical releases, they'll still keep the franchise going and make bargain basement versions of the movies because the name sells. So you're absolutely right. I'm sure exactly what you thought about the movie is exactly the case, but it happens because they're trying to cash in on the name, and they're just not going to spend nearly what they spent on the original theatrical releases. So Garden Variety Vagabond sends a tip in and says, Brady retires. No, he doesn't retire. Wait, he is retiring. Just listen to his dad. Hold your horses and let the poor man retire when and how he wants. He's earned that. And of course, he would not want to be stealing the news before the Super Bowl. You're probably right about that. And of course, now we know that he's come out and said he is in fact retiring. He really is the greatest of all time. And after his career, you always leave on a high note. Even this season with the Bucks, did a phenomenal job. He was this close to getting into another Super Bowl. And at 44, he's got a beautiful wife. He's got beautiful children. He has plenty of money. And after the career he's had, after the historic career he's had, enjoy life. You're still young. Travel around the world. Watch your kids grow up. Spend time being their father. Be a husband. And who wouldn't want to have the life he can have now? So I don't begrudge him retiring and doing it at his own time, but I like how you said this. He's earned that. He did earn that. And he did come out and was able to, I think he announced the news on Instagram that yes, indeed, the GOAT is retiring. Ace the Merc says, hey, John and crew, I love this show. I was wondering if you had heard anything new about Daredevil in the MCU. I've been thinking it's a different version of him, but I have friends that swear up and down that they are the same. Part 2 coming. Ace the Merc goes, I know Vincent D'Onofrio has done an interview saying he played the character the same way, but it was hard to connect all the dots, to me meaning they aren't the same, but there is still a lot of debate from what I hear. And Ace the Merc finishes this one off. By the way, thanks for supporting the channel in this way, Ace. So my question is, have you heard anything definitive, or do you think we will? Ultimately, I'm sure we will get an answer. I just hate the unknown. Ha ha ha. I'm sorry for the 3-part question. I hate to bug you guys. No trouble at all. That's why we're here. Thank you again for all you guys and gals do. Well, first of all, Ace, again, thanks for supporting the channel. No, I believe that it is absolutely the Matt Murdock we saw in the Netflix shows. It is absolutely the real Daredevil, just like it's absolutely the real Kingpin. Now, we don't know. Maybe Matt Murdock himself got blipped. Kingpin got blipped. So I think it is those same characters I think it's supposed to be. As for, I think we can guarantee they would not have put Matt Murdock in Spider-Man No Way Home if we didn't expect to see him again. Now, I don't have any firsthand knowledge of this, but Matt Murdock's a lawyer. And there is an upcoming Marvel TV series that deals with the legal profession. And I think if we see Matt Murdock and he's not, I would expect to see him again in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, I would imagine. Why wouldn't he? New York based. I can't, but I have no knowledge of this. But there is a legal show, how Warner Brothers. Oh, see, I said the wrong thing. I think that Marvel has done of course, different genres of things. And I think doing a legal show is a natural. And they do have a legal series coming up. I'll leave that for you to decide because I don't want to be the one to spoil anything if people don't know, but we'll see. But I would imagine we are absolutely going to keep seeing Matt Murdock and Daredevil. Garden Variety Vegamon is back and says Wash and Mal are back together again in Resident Alien. If that is not a reason to watch, what is? Alan Tudyk is just so amazing in this, and shout out to Sarah Tomko as Asta. She is a great balance to his insanity. I've watched, I apparently don't remember the names of the characters. I thought Resident Alien was hilarious. Elizabeth had me start watching. It's hilarious. And Alan Tudyk is so good. I mean, his performance is so bonkers and off the wall and yet still grounded and believable. I mean, I think about shows where human beings are portraying human beings that are possessed by aliens, and Alan Tudyk. I mean, I think back to people like the movie The Hidden. If you guys have never seen the late '80s low budget horror sci-fi movie The Hidden, watch that, where people are being possessed by an alien creature, just like in the way Alan Tudyk is doing it in Resident Alien. I love that. I mean, I love it. Or like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where the characters are like this because they're possessed by an alien intelligence. But Alan Tudyk is knocking it out of the park. Resident Alien is hilarious. I cannot recommend it highly enough. I'm glad you dig it. Dr. Nova sends in a tip and says, I get hyper-focused on one thing a lot, and yesterday I was thinking that Peggy Carter has my favorite costume in the MCU. And 4 hours of Googling later, I now know the history of makeup from the early 1900s to the 1940s. This is one of three from Dr. Nova. In the early 1900s, American women wanted to wear makeup, but it was seen as faking it and hiding what you look like. So makeup was homemade and looked as natural as possible. In the 1920s, this changed due to movie stars needing to wear a lot of makeup. And by the 1930s, makeup was very mainstream and lipstick wasn't rationed, and women were encouraged to wear red lipstick because red was seen as patriotic. That is why Peggy Carter wears red lipstick, and this is how I enjoy movies. Well, Dr. Nova, I didn't know that. That's fascinating. I didn't know that. Yeah, I think that's great. I also agree with you, and thanks for that history lesson. I appreciate that. I didn't know that. I love that costume. Captain Carter has a dope-ass costume. I love that costume. I mean, it's very reminiscent of Captain Britain, and I get why, but it's a great costume, and I agree. It's one of the best of the MCU. That's why I'm happy that we're going to get a hot toy of Captain Carter, and I will be the first on my block to buy it. Probably, to be fair, the only person on my block, because I don't know how many action figure collectors there are where I live, so we'll see. Dangerous D says, hi, John. I wanted to know your take on micro LED versus OLED TV. Samsung has been touting micro LED, not to be mistaken with mini LED, that are better and promising truer blacks, better brightness, and not susceptible to burn-in. OLED TVs have been the popular choice so far. Thoughts? I'm a huge fan. Now, I have to tell you, I'm a big home theater aficionado. I love OLED TVs. Love them because of the black levels. I would need to jump in on the micro LED bandwagon. I have not done enough research there. I am still a huge fan of OLED. What I really want to get is one of the Sony Master Screen versions. I want to get an 88-inch, or pardon me, it's an 83-inch OLED. I'm in the market for it. I really want a Panasonic, but I can't get them in the United States. So I am a big OLED guy. But I would have to look in. I mean, I know that Samsung has more bargain. They want to make cheaper TVs than the high-end Sonys or LGs or Panasonics because they serve more of a consumer market, not a necessarily high-end TV marketplace. But I would love to look in. I just don't know enough about micro LEDs, but I will say I'm an OLED guy. But that doesn't mean I'm against micro LED. I just have to check it out. But it's a great question. Now I need to know. Now I'm going to have to run home and do the research now. Justin at the movies, Justin at the movies, sends in a tip and says, hi, John. I'm finishing checking my list off 2021 films, and I really liked Tane. Oh, I liked it too. It's weird and twisted and strange, and it's the second film from the director of Raw, and I can't recommend it enough. I own the Blu-ray. I know that's probably shocking to some of you, but it's true. Not in my top 10, but there was a lot to talk about, and it was very entertaining. It starts rather cold-blooded and visceral, but becomes a story about what love really means. Justin, you and I park our shuttlecrafts in the same shuttle bay. I agree with you. It is the weird, twisted body horror movies that I don't think get made enough anymore. I was there for it. I really loved Titane, so I'm with you. Chuck the Mystery sends in a tip and says, "Hey, John, we're just over 4 weeks until game day. With tickets for the Batman going on sale February 10th, what kind of opening weekend can this film have? I know you don't think we're going to see a Spider-Man situation, but what is your prediction now?" Well, yesterday we talked on the show about our predictions for the Batman, and I say that it's going to be 150 million or less. Not because I don't think it's going to do big numbers, but because the movie's 3 hours long. It's even longer than Spider-Man No Way Home. And I just think that obviously Spider-Man No Way Home has a much wider, I think, demographic net to cast. You know, you can take grandma to it, and you can also take your little brother or sister to it. I think that the Batman is a lot more intense. I think the family audience, while some families would go, like my dad would have taken me, but I think a lot of people, the intensity of the movie is not going to keep it. It isn't going to make it. It's much more along the lines of Joker, and but we'll see. We'll see where it's going to go. I don't think it's going to do those huge numbers. Not like No Way Home's going to do. I think it's going to do well. I think if it's truly great, and people go back, I could see it becoming a hit like Joker and making over $1 billion. But again, it's a 3-hour movie. It's really hard to say without knowing about the movie, but it looks fantastic to me, and I can't wait for it. Chuck the Mystery says, "A few weeks back, you discussed the art we saw from Batgirl showing what appears to be the Keaton Batman with Robin, but which Robin will be referenced in the film? Over or under 40% that Damian Wayne is that Robin, whether it's just in that picture or not?" I think under 40%. I think if they're going to go with Robin, they might mention Jason Todd, but I think they're going to go with Dick Grayson. I think that's what they would do. But that's just me, because he's the more iconic Robin. I mean, it could be Tim Drake. It could be Jason Todd. I don't think Damian Wayne, it's going to be Damian Wayne, but you never know. I just don't think it would be. I don't know why I think that. I just don't think it would be. K-Rock sends in a tip and says, 1 of 2. What it do, movie crew? Well, it do good. I read a Rolling Stone article from December that said Leonardo DiCaprio and Raekwon of the Wu-Tang Clan wanted to work on a Wu-Tang Clan biopic, but the RZA wanted to do a Hulu series instead. My question is there something that I'm missing or don't know, or did RZA make a questionable decision in choosing Hulu over DiCaprio? Maybe I'm wrong and Hulu is the better option. Wondering your thoughts. Much love from Compton, California. Well, K-Rock, I would say this. You know what? I think he made the right choice going with Hulu, because Leonardo DiCaprio is hugely in demand. And, you know, he's got his own production company, Appian Way. I've actually been to their offices. And I think going the Hulu route, because I thought that was a pretty good show, actually. I really liked it a lot. I think by going the Hulu route, he would have the control. You know, if he did it with DiCaprio, it would get made, but he might have to cede control to somebody else, and was probably really able to retain control over the series by going with Hulu. I think that's why he did it. And I think the Wu-Tang Clan is definitely a group that they want control of their own material. So, yeah, I think that's probably what happened. But a great question. And by the way, thanks for supporting the channel. Anonymous sends in a tip and says, "Hey, John, speaking physical media, No Way Home is also releasing a collector's 4K edition exclusively at Target and Best Buy. I'm planning to buy both. If you're going to have physical media, then doing stuff like this is still great." Well, as many of you know, I do a Sunday morning show called Let's Get Physical Media, which one day I'm going to be able to sing that title in key, but today is not that day, with Dieter Bastian. But I'm a huge fan of physical media, and we buy multiple copies of discs. So, Anonymous, I am right there with you. No one's going to get me. People can pry my physical media out of my hands when my cold, dead fingers are grasping onto my discs. And I still love physical media. T3 Medias says, if Mailbag is back, will Movie Talk come back? You know what? John and I had a conversation about that just yesterday. Seems like common enough title that you should be able to use it. Congrats to Ray. What up, Rob? Our collab is inevitable. It's Robvious. Get it, LOL. Yeah, well, let's do it. We've done it before. Let's do it. Beruz Herolev. Hey, gang, Paramount Plus has a lot of soccer, UEFA Champions League, Serie A, North American World Cup qualifiers, etc. So that's the reason they got me in. They also have replays and highlights built in. ESPN lacks in that department. That's why I subscribe. Baruz, well, that's a really good point. I mean, that kind of functionality, hey, that kind of functionality is certainly unique. And if that's how they got you, then they should get you because, you know, providing that kind of a service is why you want those things. So that's really interesting. I wonder if they keep that up. I mean, that kind of functionality is worth buying, I guess. Mark Neto says, hey, folks, I'd be thinking that Spider-Man's long legs may be from the, I see what you did there, from the reopening of theaters internationally from the quarantine. Regarding watching folks who missed it first. John, I remember the last Stanley Cup win for the Leafs. Wishing for it again. From what John tells me, that's never going to happen. The history of mankind. But Mark, I think you're right about that. I mean, look, I think Spider-Man No Way Home in any climate would have made money. But I do think it did benefit from the fact that it hit that sweet spot when people were going back to theaters, and I really do think that, yeah, man, it came out at the right time, the right place, the right time, and it captured the hearts and minds of the world. So I think you're right about that. Mark Neto goes on to say, regarding the Leafs' last win, I was only knee-high to a grasshopper when that happened back in '67. Watching on the old radio, Radiation Master TV with an antenna. Then the Harold Ballard era showed up. By the way, Robert and myself share a specific date, May 15th. Feeling fortunate. Well, Mark, we share the same birthday. How amazing is that? Do you plan your birthday like out in a distance, like from a long way away? I'm just happy to be here now. But yes, May 15th is my birthday. Thomas sends in a tip. By the way, I just don't know much about the Maple Leafs, and I'm glad that you have that knee-high to a grasshopper. Yeah, I remember those days well back in '67. Thomas sends in a tip and says, I wouldn't consider myself an Elvis fan, but I think Baz Luhrmann's movie may be the big sleeper hit this summer. Tomas, I agree with you. I love Baz Luhrmann's work, and hey, I just got a 6-scale Elvis figure, and yeah, I think you might be right about that. I think you might be right. I think it could be a great big deal. It could be very, very cool. I think it's going to be a phantasmagoria like Moulin Rouge was. Dude, I even liked Australia, you know, but I love The Great Gatsby. I love Moulin Rouge. I love Romeo and Juliet. I'm a Baz Luhrmann fan. Strictly Ballroom. The Red Curtain trilogy. Bring it on. Can't wait. But you might be right about that. I think that, yeah, it absolutely could be a sleeper hit. Or not. I think it'd be a big hit. Not necessarily a sleeper. He's a very well-regarded filmmaker. So we could be getting something very special. Ryan Lohner sends in a tip and says, an upcoming Netflix movie I'm very excited for, Interceptor, written and directed by Matthew Riley, who's written a ton of books that are some of the best pure mindless fun you'll ever see. Even if it's crap, it'll probably be very enjoyable crap. And you know, Ryan, that's the best kind of crap, is enjoyable crap. I think you might be right about that. I've not read Matthew Riley's books, but hey, anything with the title Interceptor, like I think of the V8 Interceptors, which is of course Mad Max's car, but or my Estes satellite interceptor, or just Interceptor flying model rockets, one of which that works on E-engines is hanging above me in the Robservatory. Heck yeah, man, bring that on. I think if it's enjoyable crap, I'll watch it. Mike Wraith says, hey, John, I've been watching you since AMC. Well, We're on the brink of having the Batman premiere. What are your thoughts about Robert Pattinson? Will he be a one-and-done Batman like Val Kilmer, or will he complete the trilogy? Thoughts? Thanks. Well, Mike, you know what? I think it depends on what kind of a Batman movie we're getting. With a 3-hour Batman movie, it might just be designed to be a one-off. Of course, if it's hugely successful, I'm sure they're going to do another one. And I think they have to be thinking, you can't make a Batman movie and think, well, there's only going to be one of these, because the way trilogies and things have worked. I mean, you have 4 Michael Keaton era Batman movies, the Schumacher era. I mean, you've got the Tim Burton Schumacher era. That's 4 films. The Nolan era is 3 films. Zack Snyder's era is 3 films. So I can't help but think that they see this as a 3-film series. At least we're getting it. We know we're getting 2 Michael Keaton Batmans. We're getting the Flash and Batgirl. So I wouldn't imagine there's got to be a 3rd Michael Keaton Batman movie. I'm hoping for Batman Beyond, which I would love. We'll see, but we'll see. We'll see what we get. We will see what we get. Orange Grove 55 sends in a tip. Says, will YouTube demonetize you for saying Peacock on the air? Ha ha ha, potty mouth. Laugh out loud. In all seriousness, the service does have some great stuff on it. You know what, Orange Grove? I like Peacock. I think it's great. I think the series, the series and the shows they have on the service is great. It really is well done. I like it. I enjoy it. I think the name, as we've been making fun of it wantonly for years, Peacock. I mean, so weird. Why not Universal? It's their parent company or whatever. Universal is Universal. What a cool name. And what a logo. But is it true? Do you get demonetized for saying Peacock on YouTube? I guess Peacock. I guess we'll find out. Chloe Fanning. Hello, Chloe Fanning. How are you? Good to see you on this channel. Even though you don't like NASCAR, they transformed the LA Coliseum into a NASCAR track for one race later this week. But can that be a positive for filmmakers? They can use the Coliseum to film any racing scenes for any future movie or TV productions. You know what, Chloe? I think you you sent me that question last night. I didn't know that. I love the idea of going to see a NASCAR race inside the Coliseum. I got to do that. I think that they could. I mean, once they've done it once, have they ever done that before? I don't seem to remember any time they're doing that, but man, that seems cool to me. I'm down. I am totally down. Bring it on. So yeah, love it. And by the way, thanks for the tip, Chloe. Chops sends in a tip and says, hey, John, love the show. Watch it every day on my Bluetooth speaker while at work. Today you mentioned you started Station 11, just seeing what you thought so far. And also you have to check out the HBO Max movie, The Fallout. Have a great day, man. Ooh, I don't know The Fallout. Station 11, I love the book. Elizabeth read the book too. Actually, they had her read the book in school at Art Center. She's in sci-fi class. And I think this series is beautifully done. Really, really good stuff. Really enjoying it. I think I'm halfway through. I just finished Archive 81, so I can move on from that. And I'll go back to Station 11 and finish that, which I'm very excited about doing. But I've been loving it so far. It's beautifully made. Big fan. But now I got to check out Fallout. I'll go check that out. Well, when I get home today, I'll go check it out. Garden Variety Vagabond sends in another tip and says, for all the surprise at the dollars for Night Monkey 3, but I feel we forget about not only is this in a pandemic in the U.S., the markets. Hang on a second. For all the surprise at the dollars for Night Monkey 3, but I feel we forgot about not only is this in a pandemic in the U.S. and the markets that are open, they're still not open in some European markets, but it never opened in China. Imagine all the people. You're right. I mean, this movie made all this money without China. Imagine if it had China. I mean, it could potentially have given Endgame a run for its money. I'm with you there, man. I mean, it's pretty crazy that it made that much money and it didn't even open in China. I mean, that's huge. That is some big money. Hi, John. Well, I done it. This comes from, Dangerous D. Hi, John. Well, I done it. I decided to start my own blog. Good for you, man. I got a domain name, and I want to discuss movies, TV, etc. I want to thank you for inspiring to do what I've always wanted to do. I know you get this a lot, but what advice can you give me, and how can I monetize this? Okay. Well, look, I got to tell you, I personally learned much of what I know about YouTube on this show, on Collider Heroes, but mostly from John Campea. John really understands. By the way, look at this image right now. I mean, look at how I look now. I know I'm an old F, but look at the lighting. Look at the quality. Listen to the sound. I think one of the great things about YouTube, and I don't have all the kind of equipment that John does, but John invests, first of all, in providing a great looking show. It's a great looking show. And so, first of all, I'd say, and John taught me this, I think what's really important is you want to deliver the best experience you can to your viewers. That's first and foremost. But here's what you got to do. You need to figure out what can you do, meaning you, Dangerous D, that differentiates you from everybody else talking about movies and TV. You have to find something, because you're a unique person. Think about it. In the cosmic infinitude of all creation, in the limitless, most unbelievably incomprehensible size of the universe, there's only one of you. One of you. There's only one Dangerous D. You're the only one of you in the entire infinitude of the universe. I wake up with that, realizing, that's pretty cool. So whenever you get down on yourself, remember, you're the rarest commodity in the universe because there's only one of you. But that said, what do you, Dangerous D, have to offer that other people don't? What you have to offer is yourself. So you need, I think, to have real success on YouTube is to find something in your personality. What is it that makes you unique? Something that is uniquely you. And always you be yourself and try and bring something that is uniquely you that no one else can bring because they aren't you. And maybe it's the way you deliver your opinion, or maybe it's the way you turn a phrase. That's what you need to find. Do something, because anyone can talk about movies. It's the way you talk about them that differentiates you and will give you great success on the interwebs. So that's my advice. Jay Bling says, I know posters have no bearing on a movie's quality. I just simply want a Spider-Man No Way Home poster with all 3 Spider-Man and all the villains, plus Doctor Strange and other relevant characters. And what better place for one than home video? Oh, Jay Bling, I think you're right about that. Obviously they couldn't spill the beans with the key art. Main art for a movie is called key art in industry parlance. That's what key art is. What movie posters are. That's the key art for the movie. I think that for the home video release, there's going to be some, I think, great posters with everybody. Blowout. I want to see all the characters. I'm with you. I'd love to get a great No Way Home poster, really well designed with all the villains, all the Spider-Man, the Spiderman. I hope that happens because, damn it, we deserve it. We deserve it. Casey the Sledge Storyteller tips 5 and says, hey, John, great show. With the Batman as the start of a trilogy, I'd like to see the future villains be the currently unused ventriloquist, Black Mask, and a better Mr. Freeze. But thoughts on who else would be good for the Battinson verse? I have to tell you, I've been talking about this for a long time, but I really love the Court of Owls storyline. I think, a lot of these villains we've seen before. And look, I would love to see the ventriloquist or Black Mask or a better version of Mr. Freeze, but would they work in the Battinson universe? Batman universe? I don't know. I haven't seen the film yet. It's really an issue of tone. Like, I thought that the Riddler, for instance, in Batman Forever, in Val Kilmer's Batman, the Riddler and Two-Face were so over the top and so insane that they kind of took me out of the movie. Whereas I love the tone of the Nolan Batman films. Hopefully, Battinson's version is going to give us something along those lines. But I think it's all about the tone. But I really would love to see the Court of Owls. I mean, I know that might not be the most original thing in the world, but that's what I want to see. And by the way, thanks for the compliment on the show. Hello from Romania. HBO has just announced the official launch of HBO Max on March 8th. In Bosnia, Herzegovina, Bulgaria, Croatia, the Czech Republic, Hungary, Moldova, Montenegro, the Netherlands, North Macedonia, Poland, Portugal, Romania, and Serbia. And that's from this, by the way, this is coming from Cosmin Nicholas, and Slovakia and Slovenia. Later this year, it plans to expand to a further 6 European countries, including Greece and Turkey. Cosmin Nicholas, well, I have to tell you, I actually produced a horror film in Bulgaria, and I was there for 4 months back in 2008 called The Hills Run Red. And I have to tell you, I loved Bulgaria. I love the people. I love the film crews. I love your part of the world. We had so much fun, and you people know how to party. Just saying. So, Cosmin Nicholas, I'm happy you're getting HBO Max. I think it's great. It's expanding to that part of Europe, and I hope you're going to enjoy it because there's a lot of great stuff. I really like HBO Max. I think there's a lot of great stuff there. I like its layout. I like the movies it has. I like all the shows. I really am enjoying it. So, kudos to you for finally having HBO Max get on the bandwagon and get you what you want, which is Peacemaker. You know it. I know it. We all know it. You're going to love it. And thanks for writing in. Hazmat sends in a tip and says, Rob, I don't know much about Hot Toys. I don't know much about Hot Toys, but I know that I want an Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. Do you think they'll make one after he gained so much popularity in No Way Home? What goes into getting one or licensed or greenlit? Well, first of all, Hazmat, they have made Hot Toys of Andrew Garfield back from Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. So there are Amazing Spider-Man Hot Toys that you can get. So they exist. I think, based on the success of this film, I think they're going to remake Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. I think we're going to get Hot Toys figures of those characters. And I think we're going to get, we're getting more Tom Holland suits, of course, but I think we're going to get even another Tom Holland. They just announced Green Goblin with a Willem Dafoe head sculpt, which is great, which they is a long time coming. And you ask, what goes into getting one licensed or greenlit? Well, it's really all up to the company. I mean, Hot Toys is kind of interesting. They're kind of all over the place in who they decide to make and who they don't. Believe it or not, the Hong Kong audience isn't very big on Star Wars figures because Star Wars didn't originally open then. It didn't open in China back in the day. So, I mean, they still sell them there, but Star Wars figures are much bigger in the rest of the world. But superheroes are really big in Hong Kong where they make Hot Toys and in China and things like that. So I think we're going to get a Tobey Maguire and an Andrew Garfield Hot Toy. I just don't know when. It's really up to Hot Toys. You know, they would go to the license, they're licensees, and they would go to the licensor and say, hey, look, Marvel, we want to make these. And I don't think Marvel ever says no. But it's really weird. I mean, like, look, I would love to get they just announced Cosca Reeves, but we still don't have Dora Milaje figures. Like, I want an Okoye figure from Black Panther. They made Shuri, but no Okoye. And I've always thought like the Dora Milaje are the stormtroopers of Wakanda, so I'd get a bunch of them with maybe interchangeable heads or something. I don't know why they haven't made any, but I would certainly like to get them. And it's really weird. Sometimes Hot Toys, you think they'd make something and they don't. But I think because of the popularity, they are going to make a Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield Hot Toy figure. But the thing is, in order to get their head sculpts, they have to pay money. They have to pay extra money for the likeness approval of those characters. So it might be exorbitantly expensive. I don't know. Jeff in San Diego. John, with your box office discussion about the Batman, I was wondering if it's getting a China release. Ooh, good question. If so, what do you think the total box office may end up as? I don't know if the Batman is getting a China release, and I think probably not at this point. I could be wrong, but I don't necessarily think the Batman is going to be getting a Chinese release just because, you know, these movies haven't been, which is really... It's been really weird that China has sort of not allowed these very popular movies into their borders. But with the Batman, I don't know. Maybe it's going to get in, but if it does, I think it's probably going to do very, very well. It's hard to say how much money it's going to make. I mean, look, I think if the movie's good, it could do Joker numbers. Remember, it's a 3-hour-long movie. So there's less showings during the day. And because it's much more adult-oriented, I think it's less of a family movie, the way Spider-Man No Way Home is, which could affect its box office. I mean, if it's great, it has the potential to be a billion-dollar movie. Certainly Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises were. So there's no reason to expect this wouldn't be. And with China money, I mean, if the movie's good, it's hard because we haven't seen the movie, but it looks really, really good. So, yeah. But it's hard to say. Look, I would say $1 billion if it's good. If it goes to China, 1.5 billion maybe, if it's good. Joe Derp writes in and says, "What are the chances we see a Kenobi trailer for the Super Bowl?" We were talking about that on today's show. I think probably not, because it's an NBC show, and I think it's too expensive. Although that doesn't mean anything. I could be wrong. If they really want to promote Book of Boba Fett, will have wrapped up, and what better way than to drop a Kenobi trailer on the Super Bowl? I mean, why not? But then again, it's not ABC, so who knows what we're going to see? But I don't think so. Garden Variety Vagabond says, "I hope that with the anticipation and I assume appreciation of the Moon Knight show, more appreciation and viewing will be given to Dan Stevens' portrayal of David Haller and Legion. This was a great and very trippy look at multiple personality disorder." You know what? I'm glad you brought that up. I thought that Dan Stevens was amazing portraying David Haller, Xavier's son. Legion, what a great show. Kind of, it's always been unsung, I think. I think the people that watched it loved it. But that show does not get nearly enough credit. I thought it was terrific. I never thought I'd see a Legion show, so that was amazing. But, yeah, I am with you 100% on that. It needs to be talked about more. Guard Variety Vagabond goes on to say, "John, for the D&D project, I really want the Dragonlance Legends and Legends novels by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman so bad. Tanis, Sturm Brightblade, Goldmoon, Riverwind, Cameron Megere, Raceland Megere, Flint Fireforge, and Tasselhoff Burrfoot." Great names all. I haven't read those novels, but it sounds good. I mean, I hope, obviously, it's always my hope that they go back and look at these tie-in novels. A lot of people are like, we don't need to look at the tie-in novels. We want to make them original to us. But I'm like, yeah, but the tie-in novels have been so good. They've already been embraced by the fans. People know what they want. And maybe now that we know we're getting Ronson Thurber, of course, he of Red Notice and Skyscraper fame, is going to be spearheading the Dungeons and Dragons TV show. Well, that's great stuff. So you never know. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, because Dungeons and Dragons is a fairly generic game. I mean, it uses major fantasy ideas, but it is fairly generic. And I have to say, I think going in and using these kinds of characters is a great way to go. So I'm right there with you. I don't know the characters, but, knowing that you want them and read the books, I mean, it's already laid out. Why not go? And by the way, those names are great. Donald Mex sends in a super chat. Doesn't ask anything, but Donald, thank you for supporting the channel. Lucky BX sends in a super chat and says, "Hi, John and crew. What's the next Marvel team-up movie you would love to see? For me, it's Spidey and the Hulk." Well, for me, I'd love to see Spidey and Daredevil. I'd also like to see Midnight Suns. I'd love to see Blade and Moon Knight and the Black Knight and Ghost Rider, if they ever introduce the Ghost Rider. I would love to see that. I'd love to see a team up. And also, to be honest, I want to see the Avengers and the X-Men team up. Not a versus movie, but team up and fight some people. I don't know who they would be, but you could do X-Men versus Avengers. You could do that. But Moon Knight and Daredevil, or Spider-Man and Daredevil, or Moon Knight and Blade and the Midnight Suns. So, and that is, oh my gosh, that is it. We come to the end of Mailbag. I want to thank everybody for generously supporting this channel. It means a great deal that you watch the John Campea Show and support all of us, the team here at the JCS. Thank you for all of that and your support via Super Chats and tips. Very much appreciate it. And I got to say, it does not suck sitting at John's control panel. I mean, if you saw the amazing array of technology, I feel like, I could break into NORAD and take over the nuclear launch codes from here and blackmail the world into giving me budgets for all the movies I want to make. I think that'd be great. But anyway, I want to thank John Campea for allowing me to do this. I want to thank our viewers for watching these things. And most of all, I just want to thank the imagination of all the great filmmakers out there that continue to inspire us by making TV shows and movies and video games and whatever they do that we all love. It is a great place to be. And on that note, I would say remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. Thank you from all of us here at the John Campea Show. Should I say it? Bye-bye. Oh, wait. How about this? Does that go back? Oh, no. Oh, see, I messed up. See, I gave John a bye-bye. I'm going to start recording or stop recording.